Hello. Oh,
Oh, hello.
it works. Suddenly it works. Thank you for coming to our conversation today. It's called Beyond the Buzzwords. If you are here to have buzzwords unpacked or explained, it's not that talk. We are going to talk to an amazing guy, David, I'm going to introduce him later, who has gone beyond the buzzwords and done some things that are really impressive in the space of e-commerce and content operations. So first, just let's talk about e-commerce and content. So I'm the CTO of Sanity, and we didn't know we were an e-commerce company initially. We thought we were a content platform, and then we were told by our customers and by Shopify that people keep using you with Shopify or with other e-commerce solutions. And of course, the main reason we don't buy things, the main reason we don't convert in the pipeline is that we worry. We don't find the product, we don't understand the product, we worry we didn't find the right product, we haven't seen enough. These are all content problems, they are experience problems. So we realized people were putting Sanity on top of these commerce solutions to build better experiences and to tell the stories of their product better than what comes out of the standard e-commerce solution. And it makes sense because Sanity was built as we used to be an agency, and Sanity was built because we were constantly held back by the infrastructures of our customers. There were so many things we couldn't do. So when we started creating Sanity, we said we want an infrastructure that when you put it into a company, you can build anything you like, but it integrates into the enterprise stack. It becomes part of the ERP system, becomes part of the e-commerce system, and lets you do whatever you want in terms of experiences. So that's why we are used by a lot of very ambitious brands to just create an amazing customer experience and tell the stories of their product. So that's how we learn from our customers that we are an e-commerce product. Now we are learning something new. We are learning that the most successful customers we have think about their operations as a content operations, not as just like an experience. Because the hidden cost of content is, of course, labor. It's very labor intensive. So what you need to be able to scale that, to have a sustainable way to run that experience, you need a very, very optimized experience for your teams. You need to automate as much as possible. You need a super streamlined workspace for your teams. And Sanity is a development tool. It's a way to build a custom CMS experience. It's a way to build a custom automated content operation underneath the system. And that's why these brands, forward-looking brands like Tecovas Hair, they bring it all the way into the core of the company. These are CTO level decisions that think about content as the heart of the operations and build that out. And we're so lucky today because I asked David Annez, which is one of those, those visionaries who like see beyond that, like CMS is something that marketing owns and like a thing that happens over here. Think about it as the heart of the company, maybe way beyond what I ever imagined for us. David used to be VP of product at loveholidays, made that into an amazing success, and is now entering a role as CTO, bringing it into the heart of the company. Of Lottie, it's a healthcare startup, Excel-backed healthcare startup. And David was generous enough to come here today and share in his philosophy, and we'll have a conversation about that. So,
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I guess to expand on what Simen said, when I joined loveholidays, the things were very broken. E-commerce is of course, if everyone doesn't know what loveholidays does, we sell holidays. But one of the things that we were thinking about when we were trying to build for the future was how do we expand the ability to let non-engineers control the website, control marketing decisions, but not just marketing decisions, like automation, like the pricing rules and all of that. I'm sure if any of you work in a technology company, you might have many internal dashboards and configuration tools that do much of a muchness. And we were just thinking, how do we consolidate this and how do we build a platform that lets us do that? And so we came up with some principles around like configure, adapt, and learn. And this was where we were looking at not just content, but configuration and data, right? Like content is essentially anything that you can change from a data structure, and what we were looking at was how can we do this at scale for everything, like hotel to their pricing rules to how the website is displayed. We could even turn on and off the website if we wanted to. And so we were looking at this kind of set of principles that would then let us go from configuration to adaptation. You can then apply automations and machine learning on top of data because there are just data structures, and then onto that learning model, right, which is like experimentation at scale. If any of you do A/B testing, Love Holidays did a lot of A/B tests, hundreds a month. And a lot of that was actually never done by engineers. It was all done by marketing, trading, content, SEO. They all had the controls to do that as we applied these principles on top of the Sanity platform. And like basically, if we go to the next slide, when we were thinking about things and when we were thinking about like how do we structure content, how do we structure data, we tried to come up with this sort of view of like where everything sits. And if we have that core data in the right place, where in this case with Sanity, we could apply business rules on top of it. You know, the Irish website might not show these things, the UK website might show these other things, and then we can apply display and order rules, right? So when we think about a landing page, should it be ordered in one way for Google Ads? Should it be ordered in a different way for Facebook? And then we can just apply AI on top of that, right? AI works on data structures. And so we could then take all of that core base and start actually applying that with the eventuality of like we can just experiment at scale. And so at the moment, Love Holidays operates like loads and loads of tests from an SEO perspective, but also a lot of those tests are automated now because we have that data structure all run in Sanity, which lets us do that like at massive scale. And I think like what we'll show you next is really like how that then came about and how we looked at it, because it isn't just content, right? Content is like a sliver of like how you operate a website, and everything else that we have at Love Holidays is basically operated by Sanity.
Yeah, of course, this is my favorite slide ever. But also, I mean, we bill ourselves as the single source of truth in the business in terms of the experiences. I feel when you bring this into the core of the company, like you've done, then everything becomes a kind of content. You can say like it's not actually, content is a sliver of it, but you can also say what payment providers that you're using right now, what marketing campaigns you're running. These are also, or what airlines you're featuring. These are also bits of content, even though they also can be seen as line of business kind of decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like if you look at this, there's some really interesting things here. So Sanity is not just used by content people or engineers. Like half of these things are run by finance, and so finance actually can turn on and off payment providers should we like want to move towards WorldPay or Braintree or Stripe, or just shift the traffic from one payment provider to the other because we've reached certain limits. And so this sort of like level of configuration in one platform, one gives you a lot of observability into what people are doing in the business, but also just enables the people that know best to do the thing that they can do best, right? Like I want engineers to do the most complex thing next. I want them to build the next most important thing. I don't want them to build a landing page or change a configuration that someone else can do that knows a lot more about that, right? And so like our entire customer service platform, the configuration around it, when you're like can take a call, when you can't, when you can block a number, is all operated through the same platform. And one, it gives engineers less cognitive load on having to look after lots of different platforms, but also it just gives the rest of the business the ability to operate the entire company at scale without worrying about the engineering being the bottleneck.
So exactly, what we see with lots of our customers who kind of go down this kind of operational route is it starts with you outgrowing your e-commerce platform. Like there's not enough kind of CMS power in Shopify or in commerce tools or whatnot. You want to go beyond that. So now when you can now decide whether you're going to fight that system forever with like handcrafted customizations and the kind of chores in the company, or you can apply like a proper infrastructure like Sanity on top of that. And then I wanted to make sure people don't think that you need to stop the world and do all this, because what you've done is that you started somewhere, you did the most important thing, and you're really good at like iterating. Look for the next inefficiency. That's what we see also with the companies like the Covas and Gemini Games, like who then keeps looking for these things to apply this kind of automation and integration hammer to. Like,
Yeah, for sure. And I think like if we go to the next slide, you'll see what that actually means for us. So the way that we looked at it in the business was how do we ensure that like non-engineers can actually do the job that they're doing and do it faster than they were doing before. And so essentially we were trying to understand that at like, you know, a company of 200 plus people, like how can operations CX do that? And so we started measuring what we call non-engineering changes, which is essentially like how many times does a trading manager, a marketer, CX person make changes, right? And the inverse of this is like how many times does an engineer deploy to production, but actually we didn't want that. We wanted for that to just be a continuous thing that trading teams could do. And what you actually see is when we implemented Sanity, it started like, you know, non-engineering changes started going up a lot. And a lot of them were actually CX changes for like call management, etc. But then what we started doing was you start seeing it going down, and that's because we started automating it. And so at the point where you understand enough of the behavior of what people are doing, you can start making those changes and automate it, right? All the way, like Sanity was still the content platform with the configuration sets, but we were just then automating that content and changing it at scale. And so this was a really interesting way of kind of looking at the impact that you could have on the business, essentially to kind of mitigate operational costs, because you know we can't scale engineers infinitely to make all of these configuration changes, but also to run the business way more effectively, right? Engineers are not trading experts. They can't make pricing calls. They can't do those sort of things. And so I want to give the people that are really, really smart at those things the ability to do that through a platform.
That's kind of interesting. Like back in the agency days, we were often tasked with coming up with like an interesting and amazing experience of companies, and then we couldn't figure out how to hand those over to non-technical content people. And this kind of is what you're talking about here, like all kinds of operational things that engineers can build, but then the Sanity is how you hand that off to the right kind of group in the company. What I think we see a lot is we compete often with platforms that promise a kind of ultimate freedom for non-technical people in terms of WYSIWYG editing, drag and drop stuff, where we are going the other way. Because we feel that being very mindful of what expressive powers we decide to put into the system, it's not about being able to do everything. Like an everything platform will make everyone, like it's just a bunch of foot guns, and it is a lot of opportunities to just work on stuff that doesn't matter. So like what we see in companies who really succeed is a partnership with a small engineering team and people who actually do the merchandising or like who do the actual kind of line of business job. And then be mindful about how to build exactly the right freedoms, the right tools, the right expressivity that drives the business the way we want it. And I feel you are thinking in that way.
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. I think unlocking the next kind of ability for people to do like very, very complex things, especially talk a little bit about AI, which is, you know, everyone's buzzword nowadays. But like, I genuinely believe that like the business value off the back of this was like huge learnings, right? So when we, going back to that kind of pyramid, we then started thinking, well, where does AI sit in all of this, and how can we like not just like take jobs away from content editors? I don't believe that that's how you do it. AI is like an enhancer, right? AI gives you the ability to do things way faster and also gives you the ability to do that like at scale, right? And when you think about Love Holidays, the Love Holidays has 36,000 hotels. There's no way any content team is going to go through all of that content, right? Like it's absolutely impossible. And so Love Holidays leveraged Sanity to essentially allow editors to build prompt chains in AI and test them with all of the hotel content that Love Holidays has, right? So Love Holidays has like maybe 7 suppliers for one hotel, and so all of that hotel content is ingested, and then you could actually then write prompts on it to write the perfect hotel description, right? And so the content editors are actually focusing on how do I make the best description and the most engaging description for all of our hotels with all of the data that we have, rather than how do I do it for this one hotel or 2 hotels. And so this was actually one of the impact of AI descriptions, which is an A/B test that was run. And you can see the kind of uplift on the AI descriptions, which was had here, right? So the content editors then rolled this out to 36,000 hotels, but not just that, they did it for another country, right? So then the additional automation on top of that was we used AI DeepL to then translate it all into German, because we then had the baseline of this is what a good hotel description looks like. Now we can do it across any country without any additional work, right? And so this kind of conversion rate uplift is millions on the bottom line for an e-commerce company the size of Love Holidays. And this was just the kind of beginning of the experimentation of how do you move from that like configuration to adapting to then learning and letting people experiment with AI and content at scale.
Yeah, and this is like these kind of things when we have seen those, like you've showed us a lot of amazing things and we see things with the most forward-leaning customers, we start thinking, oh, that's when we realize we are not a content infrastructure, we're not a CMS, we are a content operating system. You are using Sanity to kind of, like we didn't build your AI functionality, you built it, but you used Sanity to give the control to the right people and to build those pipelines, the data pipelines that kind of power that. And I think it's amazing to see how you can then now combine different automations, integrations, and basically, I don't know how it is with you, like with some of our customers, they basically hide all of the other systems, like for the merchandisers at some of the companies we work with, the merchandisers and content people will not see the ERP system, will not see Shopify, will not see any of those because they only see the world through the eyes of Sanity, because that's where they then build these optimized workflows that allow them to just work faster and push out product launches faster. How is that with Love Holidays, and how will you do it with Lottie?
Yeah, I mean, I think even thinking about the CRM platform that was built at Love Holidays, like there's an off-the-shelf CRM platform that Love Holidays has, but actually we thought, well, how do we actually get everyone using the same content and sharing it across everything? So rather than building emails in the CRM platform, which a lot of platforms enable you to do, the emails are actually built in Sanity and then pushed into the CRM platform. So you can start actually like consolidating a lot of the things that you might do, pull in hotel descriptions, pull in everything else, and let like the CRM managers do that in one place, as well as being able to see all of the other content and options that they can add into these emails, rather than copy pasting it or using dynamic content blocks in the CRM platform, which would have actually required more engineering work than just leveraging the same content and structures that we already had.
Exactly. So do you then because how do you organize your teams? Like how do your non-engineers and engineers collaborate in your companies?
Yeah, I think that's a really important one to know. I think there's a lot of businesses have the kind of separation of concerns between like functions, right? Marketing, you might have some product teams, or you might have engineering as a function separately. Love Holidays was actually structured in a sense where every kind of key business stakeholder was part of like the team that was operating in, right? So there was a web infrastructure team, which is essentially was looking after how you build content at scale, and actually they had embedded in the team content managers, and then the director of marketing was a key business stakeholder in everything that they were doing, which changes the narrative massively for engineers and the product managers in that, because they're very well aware of what the business goals are, right? And everyone's on the same page and aligned on how to unlock more value. And so all of the teams essentially have an assigned business stakeholder, and embedded, CRM is embedded in the CRM engineering, as well as SEO is embedded in web infrastructure. I think the moment that you start creating those separations, you don't see the same problem in the same way, right? And you don't unlock efficiencies in the same way, because ultimately engineering, for me, when you're building these things, is like a service to the experts that can actually do the job way better than an engineer can, so the engineer can go and build more interesting things.
I think sometimes these teams can be amazingly small. Like they're extremely efficient sometimes. So what I think is sometimes when you see some companies have their kind of line of business, like merchandisers, content people, file kind of work orders with an engineering department, which is like a resentment engine, right? Like everyone is kind of seeing different worlds and are kind of disappointed and are waiting for stuff. Whereas the other way around, you make a small team with integrated engineers, and engineers are tasked with looking at what's going on and trying to optimize and make it go faster or eliminate shorts. And now suddenly you have an alliance. It sounds so obvious, but it's so rare. But I think it's like, and I think sometimes people believe that has to be so expensive, it's so huge. But I think you also have amazing efficiencies in terms of the sizes of those teams.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Love Holidays measures is the revenue per engineer, which is a good proxy to understanding how efficient your business is and how much money you're making regularly. But like as an example, the web infrastructure team is 5 engineers, and the AI descriptions were built by 2 of them, just working very, very closely with the hotel content editor, where there's 1 in the business, essentially trying to figure out what the ideal thing is. Generally speaking, like I don't believe in like very large engineering teams. They can be very inefficient. But like the closer they are to the business problem, the more that they're measuring business output rather than like engineering output. That's way more powerful than having engineers just taking up tickets and deploying things into production without understanding what the value is that they're adding on the bottom line. And having the kind of metrics like non-engineering changes as a key KPI for that team meant that they were just very driven in either driving those changes up or then getting to the point where they were automating things and driving those changes down.
Perfect. So, David, thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing this thought. I'm so grateful for that. We have some more time. I don't know exactly how the logistics of this will work, but we'll take some questions. I guess I'll go and come with a microphone or something. Like, any questions? No questions? Has to be some questions. You have a question. You have?
Firstly, congratulations, David, on the infrastructure that you've built using Sanity with Love Holidays. That's, in all honesty, has blown my mind. So, for context, we are a headless Shopify agency, and I think we are just learning that we've just scratched the surface of really what is possible in terms of consolidating all operations through Sanity. We were quite proud of what we'd built until just now. And I'm like, right, we need to go and speak to our engineering teams. I think the key thing I would like to understand was in terms of road mapping the operations and prioritizing what you brought within Sanity, how did you go through that process?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think the way that we looked at what we were going to bring into Sanity was like through a couple of lenses. Was like, one, how many changes were we making to systems like quite regularly from an engineering standpoint that we could just automate or move into one configuration plane. And then the second one naturally was then kind of mapping that onto the business output, right, and efficiencies. So for example, the CRM team spent 8 hours in a week to just build one marketing email, right? And so the measure of success there was like, let's get that down to 15 minutes. How do we do that with the right tooling? And so we moved that into Sanity, and then that gave the CRM team, which the other output measure for success there was the CRM team were then able to do way more personalized comms off the back of that, right? Because they weren't blocked doing the same marketing email week in, week out. And so we then like picked it through that, right? But ultimately it's a combination of like business stakeholders coming with their business case and being like, I want to be able to do this. Okay, well, how do we do this? Well, we're doing it in Sanity, right? And ultimately, it was a very much a technology strategy, which was if you're going to configure something, it's in Sanity. Like it's not anywhere else. Like you're not building internal dashboards just for one product. You're going to build it in Sanity because it will make you go way faster, right? And so we enforced that across all of the teams to then be able to move a lot faster.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Oh yeah, we have a, thank you. You have a question? No, yeah, just kidding, I'm just kidding. Oh, you might have a question? No. Do you have a question? No, you're already full, you're happy. Would you have a question? No, yeah, okay. Well, that's perfect. Thank you, everyone, today. And remember, it's a journey. Like he's far, far down that road, but it can start very simple and can provide a lot of value immediately, and then you can build on that, and you're on that journey. Thank you, David.
Thanks.